Alright, it's time to make the trade move.
You ought to have enough to get you straight through to New York. Do us one more favor, will you? Of course. Pray for us.
So I guess the guys who were originally going to fly...
We're actually, not only Jonathan survived and everything, but we also are, now a train level, and I think it's a fun one. Well, what is the... I know what you're thinking. What's the catch with that? Well, you'll be able to see in a second.
Joseph, I have made many poor choices in my life. Cloven, Daedalus, Hale. I'm responsible for some horrific
You don't
things.
say.
You and me both.
There is very little chance we will succeed in New York City. 4 years ago, SRPA tried to attack the tower. We lost over 1,000 men. I'm afraid you may never see your family again.
No! What about the family?
I know.
I mean... I guess Capelli is just that special that he can do what over 1,000 men
We
couldn't.
still have a chance. I have been thinking. The Chimera are perfect killing machines. But they have no thought beyond what the hive mind tells them. We can defeat them, but we must be creative. They're unpredictable. We must use their power against them.
What?
And this is where the other shoe dropped when I was saying before. Remember what he said about how this series has consistently managed to focus squarely about the Chimera invasion? Now we need human enemies. Because apparently, despite years of invasion, apparently the Chimera did not manage to kill a bunch of a very, very big group of psychopaths. So we have to deal with them too.
What?
And again, if this was done during the early years of the invasion, I would understand it more. But hold on, first of all, we get the carabine now, after all this time. Standard issue assault rifles by the United States military during the initial Chimera invasion, effective medium long range, more accurate when firing short burst. Again, the usual. Normal rapid fire, and then, grenade launcher for secondary fire. See, here's the thing, though. Again, let me use it for comparison The Last of Us, because like you said, that game came out 2 years after this. Let me also read about Satan. This feral monster is the product of years of incubation in the coal mines of eastern Pennsylvania. It's a biological and evolutionary mystery. You don't want to say anything else, okay?
That's it? Huh.
Again, there is cool stuff, attached to the actual journal, but the description itself doesn't say much, and trust me, it's not the last that does it. Speaking of last stuff, the way Last of Us portrayed communities of psychopaths made sense. Despite the fact that they were isolated and everything, they did manage to hide because the threat of the cordyceps zombies did manage to not be organized, and as a result, the actual slaughtering of humanity were more, a coin flip. There was a more high chance that, communities of bad people would survive, In here, 90% of the human population is being destroyed, and psychopaths will be the kind of people that would, properly, get killed very early on during the invasion. And yet, we will see this group of people have countless jeep and enemy. The trophy means sorry, driver, if you manage to kill an entire jeep. That they relentlessly assault this train for no reason other than to be dicks about it. And trust me, it's not even the end of it. Like I said, this is one of the things that the game takes a bit of a downturn, because while this would have made sense, for stuff like, say, Resistance 2 or in the game, and to be fair, these humans are not allied with the Chimera, they're a separate faction on their own. My suspension would be find hard to believe that these many people will be able to survive and find a intelligent proper way to still survive as a group and not let the Chimera destroy, because the next level is going to tell us how we managed to do it. There is a proper in-story explanation. Also, just to mention, the fun part of this level at the very least is that you still do have infinite ammo via similar to the boat, infinite ammo and the health pack, and this means that you can fire all the rockets that you want to destroy the jeeps, or also the shotgun like this.
like, I think another issue is this is legit the third game, and we're only now getting
And we're
human
almost
groups
at
that
the end
do
of the
this.
game. It just feels wrong. That's what I mean.
Okay. Like, I mean, in some cases, I can get people who just went crazy and are using the apocalypse as an excuse to let out their inner demons, but to what purpose, my dudes? If anything, we should all be collaborating to get these aliens off our planet. And
Well, as Malikov said, to paraphrase by quoting Dark Knight, some men just want to watch the war burn.
yeah,
So motivation-wise, I can understand. It's just that it feels inappropriate at this point of the franchise.
yeah, like I mean, maybe if we
reference, like he said, Retribution, which is set still in the early years, right after Resistance 1, Fall of Man, does have some form of antagonism with some kind of humans. I will not elaborate, but you will see when we get to that game. But it makes more sense there, and it's not portrayed in this more cartoonish kind of way, because this comes out of left field, and pretends to have a big impact, while, like I said, we're almost at the finishing line.
My main issue is, again, like, we're only getting this as a factor in the final game of the trilogy, near the end of the game at that. Like, for as good as Last of Us, the first game, was with that, imagine if we only got, like, enemy human factions, like, close to, like, well, pretty much at, like, the tail end of the game, essentially, with, like, no hint of that whatsoever. Now, sure, one could infer that they've always been there, but it still can feel, narrative-wise, so sloppy and out of place.
Well, one thing that's also important to remember about The Last of Us is that the infected in Last of Us are not quite as dangerous as the Chimera are in this series, because the Chimera in this series are far more capable physically and transform and do various things, right? Whereas the infected in Last of Us just basically just go around, and again, remember, the clickers can't even see. So it's theoretically much more easier for the humans to survive and escape them, right? Whereas the Chimera here, not quite as plausible.
It will be, like he said, while not identical, it comes eerily closer to that scenario that I thought about, the Gears franchise. Like, imagine if towards the end of Gears 3 we had a out of nowhere a faction of evil humans who just wanted to be dicks because the locals had exterminated everyone else. Again, not even 4 and 5 did that for all the plot problems that they might have had. But instead we have it here. I wanted to mention something, but I forgot. Sorry, go on.
I actually had something I wanted to say as well about that thing with the family thing. Okay, see, here's the thing. The thing about the family, for as cheesy and cliche as it may become in this game, is not necessarily a problem. It's more so the fact that the execution is the problem, because the game didn't do a good job at all in making us care for his wife and kid. We don't really. You'd think there would be like more flashbacks, like where we properly see how Capelli's life was before this, so we can again see what has been lost, so we can empathize with his loss, right? Which again, this is something that Insomniac usually always gets right. It's a very basic rule of writing. In order for the audience to empathize with the character's loss, you have to first demonstrate to the audience what that character lost. Because if we don't know what the character lost, we cannot empathize. It's basic human psychology.
Well, I'm not the biggest fan in how he's portrayed gameplay-wise. At the very least, story-wise, Spider-Man 2 makes a damn good job in making you actually care about the relationship that Peter has with Harry Osborn, for example, which makes it more important for the climax.
Well, yeah, remember, we have an entire chapter dedicated to when they're teenagers and they're doing their you know,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, exactly. So because again, the whole reason that chapter is there is exactly like you said. It's so that we can properly empathize with Peter when shit starts hitting the fan, right?
Also, to mention quickly, to spice up the set piece in order to get the train level. Since occasionally the wagons get damaged one by one, you have to detach them, and as a result, you lose advantages bit by bit. In this case, you don't have anymore at this point the infinite ammo. That's kind of neat, how we did it. Sure, it makes you wonder why Malikov did not store the extra ammo all, towards the caboose of a train, but it makes up for a good logical set piece, if you ask me. Go on, Pedro.
Dandy.
No, it's like here. I'll use one of Joe's favorite examples. Like, there's a reason why we focus so much on the dynamic between Phoenix and Mia during the first case of Ace Attorney 1. That's the whole point. So we can fully get to know Mia as a character throughout that entire episode. So that later, when the big sudden death of her in case 2 comes across as a shock.
And yet,
all
finally...
right, all this, Drova, you mentioned about being afraid of seeing Widowmakers in a stampede.
Wow. Well, they're smaller there at least, but still,
No, they're distant, Drova. Trust me, we're actually in a collision course with them.
Oh dear.
So, like I said, this level is relatively good enough to provide a set piece without feeling too much scripted.
Which, yeah, I mean, given that it's a train, you gotta do that.
Especially because, again, despite getting clearly the message that I destroyed at least a dozen, if not more, of their stupid vehicles, armed at each one armed with 4 men at least, these motherfuckers just don't want to give up.
Like, guys...
At some point, it's the same problem I have with a lot of, games that have, like, mercenary enemies. At some point, you have to understand that the killing machine that's slaughtering your team, it's not worth the money. Or in this case, the effort.
I guess if I can give that spin-off game of, okay, if I can give that Uncharted spin-off game any credit, that at least did show there being consequences to just throwing all your mooks at a guy, seeing as how Nalia pretty much lost the loyalty of her team for constantly throwing them against the Drake brothers, which, led to a lot of them dying.
But yeah, basically, like you said, the set piece will actually make sure that at this point, we're reaching the climax. Now you're gonna have to fight the psychopaths, while also the Widowmakers actually start to get into the action. So things are about to get a bit frantic.
Oh, well, there goes our train car.
Well, no, we still have at least one plus the caboose.
It got very flammable back there.
It's also symbolized by the fact that there's a storm coming.
But seriously, though, like, guys, there's a storm coming. Surely even you must know you're headed towards a flock of Widowmakers.
Like, what do you care? The train doesn't even have, the resources that you care about. It's just 2 people. Jesus.
Like, it's like in The Purge, with that group that wants to go after that one house in particular on a night where they could do any crime they wanted to, but nope, they gotta waste it.
It's the kind of strawman type of writing about psychopath. The idea that they will be so illogical just for the sake of being a nuisance towards, the people who oppose them. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, here we go. By the way, the person that is on the call with the psychopaths, Mick, that's their leader. We're gonna meet him at the end of this part and more properly in the next.
Also, how nice of the Widowmakers to now want to run all around the place, almost like they're...
It's basically the game symbolizing chaos and everyone for themselves type of scenario. Again. Cool set piece, I would like to say.
True, yeah. No, this is pretty awesome.
Also, speaking of Malikov jinxing... Oh my god.
Now you realize? Now you realize? Only now! Do a barrel roll. Alright.
I swear, Malikov, jinxing sometimes gonna be the death of you.
Well, it took out the Widowmaker, I see.
Speaking of...
Joseph, are you okay?
As fine as I can
Yeah,
be, stuck
that's why I'm
underneath a
stuck.
train wheel.
Behind you!
Don't! He just literally jumped up to
Okay,
punch
here we
him.
go.
No! Stop! Stop!
Oh god, don't tell me Malikov dies from that. Eh?
Wait! Wait! I'll give you whatever you want! No! Don't do it! God damn it, you son of a bitch! I'm warning you! I'll kill you! No! Don't! Don't!
And Malikov dies very unceremoniously.
You ready to have some fun?
Oh!
By a character that
Steve
I really
Blum?
wish. No, that's not him. I don't know. I don't remember who voices him. I'll check in between parts. But let's just say that I don't like this. I so don't like this. I get the
Please.
idea that Malikov had to die in some capacity, but make him die in the train crash if you have to.
Please.
Like he said, it really does feel like in some places The Last of Us Part 2 took inspiration from this franchise as a whole. Because holy shit.
Please tell me we are not gonna have to work with the guys who just killed Malikov.
Tune in next time, where we are captured and have to fight in the prison, where this guy is actually holding, where we have to fight 90% of the time these humanoid enemies.
So...
Enjoy.
Oh my god.
So it feels like this was for here to fulfill our purposes. It feels like it's
Padding.
moving on.
We'll be able to discuss this in the next part. See ya.
See ya.